Hello, folks, and welcome to the Power of People podcast, episode 10. My name is Mark Erlenwein. I am the principal of Staten Island Technical High School in Staten Island, New York, and I am joined by my friend, my colleague, and co-host.
Well, I'm Bob Wolf, and I'm the founder of Hope, the Student's Bridge to Business, and a series of presentations called Human Interaction, Knowledge, Applied Skills, working with individuals for 21 years in middle school, college, graduate school, and adult learners.
Yeah, and thank you once again for joining us. The Power of People podcast sets out to talk about and discuss the fact that people are the number one resource in life. This podcast is for students, graduates, parents, educators, and businesses who realize that people are and always will be their most relevant resource and who are interested in learning how to sharpen and improve their human interaction, knowledge applied HIKA skills. And folks, today we once again continue our series focusing on first impression skills. We're very fortunate and lucky enough to have another guest, Gerry DoLuca, who is the president at Dukal Corporation, a company leading in the development and manufacturing of medical products, and who partners with healthcare professionals to launch innovative solutions to unmet clinical needs. Bob, can you share a little bit more about Gerry, who's going to be joining us in a moment?
Yeah, it's a pleasure because Gerry and I have been friends for a number of years. We've worked together in a startup business for, 7 or 8 years. And Gerry has done some things that are quite unique because not only did he start the business, he started it, if I'm not mistaken, you can clear me up, Gerry. I think it was either in your basement or your garage. And you have grown the business to the point now where you've got major manufacturing facilities. Your own brand is one of the leading brands around the country. You've got a sales organization, marketing organization, and a team inside in Long Island that just absolutely promotes the Dukal brand as one of the best. You've also been able to earn the right to do some PL work, private label work for leading manufacturers of branded medical products. So what I thought was, when we're talking about first impression skills, who do I know that's got the ability and has the ability, since I know them, to meet people and make them feel comfortable, welcome, and important? And I thought about Gerry, because the whole thing with Gerry is his friends became his customers and his customers became his friends. So when we worked together, I learned a great deal about how important relationships are and the importance of maintaining them and how you build them with different types of people using a set of skills we're calling first impression skills, which are the foundation of developing strong connections in life. So why don't we just get the conversation going? And Gerry, just give a little background about yourself and what you've done and how you got to where you are and what you're doing.
Sure thing. Well, Mark and Bob, thank you very much for including me today and the ability to share some life experiences. And hopefully we have some lives that we can touch and some stories we can tell that become meaningful for the generations that are coming up behind us. I've been in healthcare for 43 years. I started as a distributor salesman after graduating from St. John's University. I, from a young age, was kind of geared that I wanted to be involved in sales. I had a degree in marketing with management as a sub. But my goal was always to come out of the university and start to work in a selling organization. My dad was doing that. He was a professional photo engraving salesman. He had long-term relationships and had built an account base that stayed with him for many generations. He was doing that for probably almost 50 years. And I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I felt that selling left the freedom to have really your own schedule, ability to have flexibility in terms of your income, being more on your shoulders than on others, and always enjoyed traveling, being in front of people and with people. So as a result, I started in healthcare as a distributor salesperson back in 1978. I did that for a couple of years, and by meeting people, I was introduced and met folks in the industry. The gentleman I'd worked for, along with Bob, I started with him in 1979. And that was a few months after Don and I had gotten married. We had come back. We took our checks that we had for our wedding and invested it in the company on a handshake. Today, you've learned enough. You do this contractually, but believed in the gentleman I was working for. And this was probably somebody that everyone liked to be around. He was good looking. He was personable, had a good personality, and he believed in what he was trying to do. So I stayed there 11 years. I was part of the management team, worked very closely with Bob, and Bob brought our local brand to a national arena, did a very, very great job, and carried the message very well. I personally didn't want to be 50 years old and ever look in a mirror and say, what could I have done myself without trying to start my own business? And that's what I set out to do. We had just had our second child. My wife was hoping, she was a bank vice president. She was hoping to stay home and take care of the two kids. And I said, Donna, I want to start a business and I need you to go back to work. She looked at me lovingly and said, well, what if I don't? And I said, well, we'll take the last few dollars we have. We're going to go buy a mirror and we can watch ourselves starve to death. So later that day, she called up the old boss and she went back to work. And we lived very carefully and very frugally. I did start the business from my home. I had traveled to China. I had the ability to find products and have suppliers that wanted to take a chance with us. So I did buy a 2-line phone, a fax machine, a door from Home Depot, and 2 file cabinets from Caldors, and Dukal was in business down in the basement. As I brought containers in, I left them at some friends' locations. I did bring cases back every day and put them in the garage, and then the UPS man would come and see me. And today we would do 5 cases, 10 cases, 20 cases with good days, and we built it one product line at a time, one account at a time, and just had a lot of luck and people that believed in me all throughout the years. If it wasn't for that belief and those relationships that I had, and even some distributors that had retired and came on and said, I think you need money, came back the next day and gave me a check and shook my hand, and I paid him interest on it. So I've had some people that believed me a lot, loved me, trusted me, and allowed me to have opportunities early on. Some of the customers I had met from the first job that I had carried over to when I started Dukal. We're in our 30th year today, and those are still friends and customers and still actively running their businesses. So it has been a journey. We've grown organically. We've grown very well through acquisitions and different ways that we can see opportunities. But our goal was always to come out with a good quality product that was able to compete with a national brand that had an enhanced margin that I could both improve the margins of the distributor, and then also they could pass some savings on to the end user, whether that be the doctor or the nursing home. Today it's the hospitals. So we've got a good position in the market. We've got a good value. And we've just expanded from the sales team to the product line we have through acquisitions and whatever else we can do to find opportunities for the company.
Well, Gerry, you did a good job encapsulating that whole experience. And one of the things that got you to where we are in this conversation is that you've taken the whole idea of relationship building. And as I like to say, there's 5 skills you need to be successful. Mm-hmm. And it all begins with making a first impression. And there's 5 ways you make it. You make it in person, you make it on the phone, you make it in writing, you make it now with technology, and you make it by reputation. And I think the one thing that has done a lot for what you've done and has taught me a great deal in my life is that your reputation precedes you. Mm-hmm. And when you do a good job for people and you do the right thing and you treat them the right way, no matter who they are, what their title is, and how big they are and how much they could buy from you, they remember that.
That's right.
So you've gotten Dukal to where it is because of your relationship first mm-hmm. impression skills, I believe. And the people that are there at Dukal that work for you feel the same way because you do treat, as one of your employees said, you treat people like family. Mm-hmm. And that is, we're sort of lacking some of that today because this screen and keyboard world has taken over the interpersonal face-to-face, mm-hmm. which you built your business and name and reputation on, and the same way I did. And the same way that the fellow we worked with who helped build that big company together.
Yes, that's right.
So,
I agree completely. You can go visit people, you can leave your business card. The only thing that really lasts is the impression that you made on that individual. At a very early age, my dad kind of knew that I was going to go into sales and things. And he said, in life, just remember, treat people like you'd expect to be treated yourself. And I've always thought of that. So whenever I'm saying something to somebody, I always say first, and it's not always pleasant because sometimes you have to correct or re-guide, but what would I think if somebody said those words to me? And how would I first take them? So I've been very careful in terms of what the thoughts would be as I want to share them or train or redirect or whatever management needs to be inquired. But the ability to motivate people really starts with a belief. I always use an analogy as people in the military. These individuals are so motivated and trained and believing in their cause that they run up a hill into machine gun fire, and no sane person in their life would ever do that. Yet, the brigade after brigade after brigade will continue to do those things because they believe. It's a lot like work. You have to have people that go the extra mile, work the extra hour, really are able to know that they have competition, and everyone in life always has an option. but you've got to steer people to believe that your option is the best logical partnership and vehicle for the products that they need and goods and services for the future, moving forward for a long, long time. The other part that I do enjoy, and I've got friends that I met in the fourth grade. We still are friendly together. We get together all through even my days when I worked at McDonald's. There's about 8 or 9 of us that still do get together, and we laugh and talk about going on dates and smelling like onions and French fries. But being able to just have those long-term relationships. And the other reality is everybody ends up in different walks of life. And I treat the folks that open the building or open the mail or put the samples or work in the warehouse or the executive team the same. They all have families, they've got kids, they've got the same wants and needs. And just because they're at a certain area in their goals or their skill sets, they have the right to be treated fairly, be treated with respect, and to be paid fairly for the work that they do. So, I know everyone in life has a role. They're all important. You can't make fun of people that may not have the same level of interest as others, but everybody's important in the overall puzzle that you have to put together. And how do you run businesses and how do you manage them and grow them?
Gerry, that's really great. Thank you for those really important examples. And when we've had this discussion with other folks, I find it interesting that how you went right back to and recalled the origin of these values.
Yes.
And you quoted something that your father had told you. Do you recall any other things that may, as you look back now, was so influential on that's very specific first impression skill? First, okay. You making a penchant of the idea of treating others how you would like to be treated yourself. What other things maybe really served you quite well over the span of your career in just making that really strong first impression?
Okay, so it's easy, and I've told the story before, but other than my dad, the single part of my life, which went on for probably 7 or 8 years, that made the biggest difference in who I am was the time I spent working at McDonald's. It was team building, it was accountability, it was showing up being proud to go to work with a white clean t-shirt that had the arches on it, wearing a silly paper hat, and standing up and saying, "Welcome to McDonald's, may I please take your order?" And we worked like dogs for $1.85 an hour. And the things that we did and the laughs that we had, and just it was a group of people. This happened to be the Oceanside McDonald's. There was a Nathan's there. We were a few miles from the beach, and it was always busy during the summer. We had a given day that was a beautiful Saturday, and all of a sudden a thunderstorm comes through, and about 2:00 in the afternoon, everybody left the beach. We've got 12 cash registers, 2 people per cash register, and the lines are 10 people deep on each one. And I'm the only grill man. I'm the guy making the hamburgers. And I'm putting down 24, 24, 24, and 12 and getting ones that just go down and ones that are just coming off. And if you ever did $600 in sales in an hour, you were in the French fry heaven and the grill man's heaven. You were walking on water. So it was a lot of laughs. We ultimately, I was ahead. Everybody was good. And about 20 minutes before, my friend Willis at that time was on shakes. And this is back when you had to put the syrup in it and mix them. And he's down vanilla, he's down strawberry, he's down chocolate. And I kept saying, "Willis, you got to get these shakes out, because if you don't do it, we can't get the person to leave the counter." So he got very frustrated when his machine ran out of syrup, and then it ran out of the mix. And he throws the can opener down, and it bounces off the floor, and it breaks the 8-foot light bulb over my head. And all the glass comes down in the grill, and I take 96 burgers and I put them down in a grease trap. And 5 minutes later, I was down burgers. But these are stories that are in books. Bill Willis continued to work at McDonald's. He retired after a successful career. And he too, said, "I'm going to make a living at this." And he did work well at the franchise. He became a manager, went to the corporation, and had a great career. So I'm still friends with those guys. Some are mechanics, some are executives, some are retired already, some are car collectors, but all walks of life, and everybody went their own ways, and some stayed with the job and others didn't. But it's a common bond that we had, and we were learned to be accountable, to respect others, to work as a team, and we did all of those things. So it was a big part of my life, and it was very, very enjoyable at that time.
Gerry, one of the things that you did when you took that job at McDonald's, you learn how to look people in the eye. You learn how to smile. You learn how to treat people with respect and be polite and friendly. And we have a situation today where a lot of the kids, young adults,
right,
they don't understand how important that face-to-face connection is, that personality is, that warm greeting is, that I don't even think some of these kids know that you learn any skill by doing 2 things. You train yourself to practice it. And that going to job every day, that Burger King job, McDonald's, any job, you're doing things instinctively. And what we'd like the listener and the viewer to understand is what you did there is the same thing you did. You treated everybody the same way. You greeted everybody the same way, whether they were a $10 order or a $5 order. And I think that the opportunity to get into the job market today is based upon how well you connect with and relate to people at some level personally. And you did that. You can't help not do it at a job like that.
That's
and
correct.
You did the same thing with Dukal. I remember some of your major customers by name that you knew and you introduced to a lot of the other people, and they became friends of a lot of people because you opened the door. And first impression skills really are the door openers to keep relationships.
Absolutely. Taking it a little bit further, as you look at the first impression, it's an executive or person in management responsibility to take that as part of a core culture within a company, and it's who you stand for, what you do. Business-wise, we used to talk about your mission and vision statements. Today, that's old school, been replaced by belief and purpose. But it's the moral compass that you have as an organization and what you do and what you say. And it starts with leadership, and it has to be agreed to upon the executives within the company. And that's your moral compass, which is really immovable. Folks that get it stay, they got great careers. If they don't agree, it's time for them to be happy elsewhere. But that, I think, as you go through life and having the conviction to agree to what the moral compass is and the culture within an organization that anybody works is as important for them as it is for the company. And those are decisions that need to be made.
It's funny, Gerry, in education, we've actually graduated finally to incorporating mission and vision statements in our forward and student family facing documentation and website. But I really enjoyed your example, because this one I give my students. Once upon a time, similar to McDonald's, I worked down the block from, I actually am the principal in the school I grew up where I attended high school. And right down the blocks of Burger King, where I worked as well. And one of the misnomers I always like to kind of dispel whenever I hear the phrase, well, you don't want to end up flipping hamburgers down the block, do you? Well, my answer is always, well, why not? Because I basically was able to get a lot of practice. There was always another burger, sometimes a double, a triple burger, extra fries, then supersize and large. And I always looked at it as another opportunity to greet a customer, do better than I did before. That was the wonderful part about it, right? The repetition of it. And that what a perfect place to hone that craft and to start building that skill set.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. I missed my high school graduation because I was in Boston competing for the Northeastern French fry competition. It was that weekend, and I missed by one fry.
And was that something that was run by McDonald's at the time?
It was done by Dukal Corporation.
Wow.
I got, and they said, LoDuca, you're going to be the French fry guy. I said, but I'm the grill guy. He goes, but you got good fries too. So off I went. I competed. They had store competition. They had regional competition. They had Nassau County, Suffolk County, New York State. I won New York State, and I went up to Boston for the New England and missed my high school graduation. So
what a novelty how in America there's such a thing as competitive eating now, but not competitive serving.
Correct.
Go figure.
That is correct.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny, Gerry, and it's sad at the same time. Years ago, I was talking about a bunch of middle school students, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in EOC group here on Long Island. And I was telling them that at that age, there's no unimportant jobs, and job is just opportunity beginning, and jobs like at McDonald's. And I use McDonald's, Burger King, pizza places, bagel shops. And I said, all those jobs are great jobs to begin and to have. And one young girl raised her hand and looked at me and said, excuse me, Mr. Wolf, my grandma said those jobs are beneath me. And I think that what we're talking about here is communicating the fact that first impression is a basic set of skills that you can apply in any job. And you learn from your dad how to treat other people. I learned from my aunt and uncle the same way. The fact of the matter is, we would like the audience that's listening and viewing to realize that what you started at in a somewhat meaningless job, or to some people, an unimportant job, proved that you could be dependable, you were reliable, you were on time every day, you did you took pride in what you did. And there's no job that when you don't take pride in it, people don't notice. So your first impression of what you did there carried on to a lot of other people. And I just think that was a great message about the fact that both of you, I worked in a restaurant as a busboy, but anytime you're looking people in the eye and smiling at them and connecting with them on a human level, you're learning how to make a first impression.
Yes, absolutely. The other part of that is, I started there at 16. I lived in Malvern. I worked in the Oceanside. We're probably 15, 18 minutes away. I didn't drive. My father was still working at that time. And in the summertime, the stores would close at 11 o'clock. You had to clean everything, the windows, the floors, into the garbage cans, the grills, the floors. So very often it closed at 11. It was 12:30, quarter to 1 before that store was done. My dad would drive from Malvern to Oceanside to pick me up. He'd drive back home. He got up at 5:30 in the morning to get on the train. And he would do that 3, 4, 5 nights a week, whatever it took for that. Never complained, never said, I don't want to get you tonight, anything. So, family structure, I think, is also has a lot to do with who I am. Having stability in the family, having two kind, loving parents that genuinely were interested, would sacrifice, is a lot to do with an individual's ability to move into life, be responsible, and provide a living for others, and to leave a mark on their children's lives as well.
Yeah, well, that certainly has, excuse me about that, that certainly has shaped who you are as a human being, a person, and as a professional. Mm-hmm. And could you share with our listeners and our viewers, I'm sure there's something special about the way Gerry DoLuca greets and meets somebody, makes that first impression, and of course, eventually that leads to making a long-lasting impression. Can you share with us some of those anecdotes and stories?
I have a firm handshake. I smile a lot. Every now and then, I've said, "You got to be careful. I'm a hugger." I personalize it. So I certainly enjoy trade shows and visits, and if time allows and schedules, to go to dinner and get to break bread and have a drink with somebody that you have a chance to learn about their lives, their upbringings, their interests, their children. Children, another thing. Some people are blessed to have wonderful kids that are successful. Others have some challenges. We have best of both worlds there, but it grounds you. It makes you realize what's important and how important a family structure is as a parent. And it starts with how you are, the games that you play, the activities you're involved in, the work that you do, for school. When I was very small, I was hit by a car. I spent 11 days in the hospital with a fractured leg, and missed most of my 8th grade. And my mom did the homework with me all the time. And then 6 months after that, I did it again and broke the same leg twice. So literally walked on crutches going to high school that day. But without my mother caring about my education, and this was well before the internet or anything. In fact, TV was 3 stations and somewhat black and white. That ability to have a family that was there, that cared, to be sure that the work was coming, the school would drop it off, and the people would come and help and tutor me a little bit, but it was reinforced. So they were as invested in my success and who I am as anybody, and love them to death for that. So I'm very lucky to have a good family. And I had a great older brother and older sister as well.
The thing too, Gerry, that you just described, I think as we get older and we gain some of the wisdom that comes with years, is that some kids and some people may not have had the family that you did, or others have had. So when we're getting older and we're dealing with people who may not have had that family foundation, the way we treat people, we become that foundation for them. We learn how to treat people who aren't as fortunate as we have been when we deal with people. So that handshake, that eye contact, that smile to someone who doesn't get it every day, who never had it. I mean, I've had kids say to me when I walk up to them in a classroom before I say a word and shake their hand, and they write afterwards, "You made me feel special. You showed me that you cared." And I thought to myself, a handshake, a smile, and a hello shows a child that you care, that you've never met before. So the first impression concept of skills is not taught very often in schools. But when we execute it and people see the way we treat people consistently on and on the same way, we make a huge first impression, whether they know it or not, on what they see us do, because they know the benefit, because they see the way people treat you back.
Right. Absolutely. As we move into the next generation of technology and podcasts and how we buy, somehow we have to overcome, I think, the human need to deal and transact with people that like, and trust. Real simple words. I know we've all repeated them for generations here. But it comes down to that, why, if we all have choices, and whether it be the car you drive or the food that you buy or the shop or the restaurant you go to, it's nice to feel special. And it's nice to go someplace and know the person, feel like they have a genuine interest in your well-being and how you are, and that there's a trust there, that they're not going to do something bad to your food before they give it to you, or they're going to give you a fair value for the products. So I think that's critical. As a company today, we spend a lot of time. We just rebranded our company to rechange the messaging that we do. And we're looking for the next generation of methods and how to communicate who we are as a company and what we stand for. Locally, Newsday does a survey every year with the top 100 companies to work for on Long Island and the best ones to work for. And in our size range, we have received an award, I think, the last 4 or 5 years running. And it's voted for by the employees here. I don't vote, but it's all of the folks that are here that, like myself and Donna, they like that this is a family atmosphere, how they're treated, the opportunities that they have. And we continue to work hard to build our company, because I know that people need raises, they need opportunities, they want more challenges. And the only way you can do that is to continue to have the enterprise continue to grow and prosper. Got a number of individuals here that are managers that over the years, as we grew, saw things that needed to be done. And they didn't wait to be given a job description change. They didn't wait to be given a raise. They saw things that needed to be done and just did them. And then all of a sudden you go, thanks for doing that. And then along with that came the enhanced job description, the better titles, the salary increases, the bigger bonuses, whatever it is. So, it's not always, when you work, it's not always me, but it's what can I do to better the enterprise that I have, that I'm working for, that I see a career here. And long-minded people that are honest and dedicated and care and go the extra mile are those that tend to do very, very well. So as I hire people, and a few over the years, we've had meetings and people pulled me aside afterwards and said, "You've got a great team. How did you find all these good people?" And I chuckled a little bit and I said, maybe you'll find my answer humorous, but I said, their ability to understand our culture, be highly motivated and dedicated is critical. And second is, I don't hire stupid people. Hire as smart as you can, be sure that they're capable of taking whatever they do, and their solutions, they're good listeners, they're problem solvers, and they're effective communicators. So, we try to do our best to provide the career path for everybody and be sure that who we are, we stand for, nobody gets embarrassed, and we do what we say, or some people say you walk the talk.
It's ultra clear that you have taken the values that your family, your parents, and your family instilled in you very early on, since you were a child, and made them really the cornerstone and foundation of everything you do. I can't help but feel it. Just getting to know you, Gerry, you emote a fatherly feel. I want to trust you, and I feel good getting help from someone like you who's presenting as you are right now. So I think that's really important for our listeners and viewers, and especially students. I think the easiest place where you can continue, as we're finding out, to start and hone these skills is at home, with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, and building off those simple ideas of trust and relationships and caring. So thank you for exemplifying that.
It's good, and for the younger generation, be selective in your work. You have the right to be happy. You have the right to be treated fairly and to look for a career opportunity. If it's not aligned for whatever reason, leave. Change can be good and positive in someone. When you pick a lifetime partner, be sure you marry your best friend. It's a long-term commitment. You're going to bring people into this world that deserve that same opportunity as others, maybe that you've had. So take every decision in life that you make, take it seriously. It's important, it's critical, and they can be lifelong for generations. So.
Well, I just think that the way we're trying to approach this podcast, Mark, when it's you and I, it's fine. But when you bring in other people with different perspectives and backgrounds and experiences, and they share them, what we're trying to do is get the listener to understand that the power of people isn't very complicated. It is making those first impressions. It is knowing how to have good, strong interpersonal skills. And we're naming some of these skills we're talking about, and we're naming them soft skills, which makes no sense, because a foundation for life on anything soft doesn't last. So for you, Gerry, what you did with the relationships that you've built, with the customers, the companies, the suppliers, the distributors, those are strong foundation skill relationships. And so I think that the people who are listening will understand what Gerry is saying is you be the same way all the time, be consistent. People want responsibility. And when you give it to them, like you said, and they make a mistake, You don't beat them up. You say, well, maybe you could have thought about it a little bit differently. So that first impression of how you treat people goes a long way to the trust that you build with them in anything that you do in life.
Right. Even in selling opportunities, you don't win them all. And I typically, you do it with respect, you do it with conviction, you do it with an understanding. And in the event that you get news that they're going to go in another direction, you respectfully ask them to say, could you please share to us why the decision was made here, so that we as a company can find ways to improve and better meet the expectations. Very often it's a political thing or nothing that was ever going to be in your control, but just to have that input back in terms of people. And people like to help each other. Even some competitors at times like to help. People have a kind, compassionate heart. So, personalizing it again, help me be better for you for the future, so that we become more successful, more in tune with the industry, and everything in life. Nothing's stable, nothing's forever. If you sit on your haunches, it's going to pass you by. So having the ability to know where the industry is going, where the technology is going, whatever it would be in life, getting it back from the market, and you get that by building trust and relationships and people that genuinely care. So.
Well, I think that's a great way to look at the comment as a underline at the end of this conversation about making first impressions, because we go back a long way, Gerry, you and I, and one of the things that we both know is the friendships we made when we were working together have stayed friendships for a long time.
Long time.
And you bump into those same people. And then sometimes if you make mistakes, you say you made a mistake and you try to rebuild whatever, but you keep moving on, understanding you're learning from every time you meet somebody new how to act better and more professional.
Yep. I think we both have friends we haven't done business with for 40 years, but they're still our friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So
that is a really great place to bring this conversation to a close today. And Gerry, on behalf of Bob and I want to thank you for joining us again and sharing your experiences and life story, really, with our listeners and viewers this evening.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Fantastic. So if you would like to continue this conversation, you can certainly drop us an email. Our website is thepowerofpeoplepodcast.com. I'm going to put that graphic up on the screen for us. You can email us at powerofpeoplepodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to our audio podcast on the Apple Podcast app and buzzsprout.com. Bob, if anyone would like to reach out to you and learn more about or get coaching in human interaction, knowledge, applied skills, how would they do so?
Well, they can do two things. They can call me, and I'll return a phone call every time at 516-639-5515. Or they can drop me an email at bobwolf@hopeskills.com. And because the reality is, people are the number one resource in life. And we've got to teach these kids who are stuck to a screen and a keyboard all day how to engage these very basic skills that Gerry just spoke about and built his business on, which are simply the people skills that we've called the wrong name. They are human interaction, knowledge, applied skills.
Agreed. And if you'd like to drop me an email at markerlenwein@me.com, I will get back to you in 24 seconds, minutes, or hours if you reach out to me. I'd be glad to continue this conversation as you can learn more about this quest that Bob and I are on. And we look forward in the near future to doing episode 11, where we continue our discussion on first impression skills. So, Gerry, thanks again.
Okay.
Bob, great to see you once again. And
thank you, Gerry.
Thank you all.
You've done my best, and Andrew, and your grandpa once, right? Once?
Two. We have a 10-week-old. 2 girls.
Oh, I thought Amy. Yeah, congratulations.
It's wonderful.
Wonderful. That's the best. That's the best. That's the best time in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, my friends.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of the week.
So long, folks.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.